what's up? Welcome back to another awesome episode of Lifeonaire Show podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. On this episode, this is a very interesting episode. We're going to talk about travel. We're going to talk about breaking out of your comfort zone, being uncomfortable, how to set yourself up to have the freedom to do the things you want. And the person we are interviewing is my daughter, Arianna. And so Ari just got back from a 6-month overseas trip. I'm not sure if you'd call it a sabbatical. I'm not sure what you'd call it when you're only 24 years old, but it's pretty awesome. And I wanted to have her on the show because, first of all, it's interesting. She went by herself. I got to tell you this, as a dad, I am half terrified and half like super awe-inspired because like she just went there literally not knowing really any other languages, made her way around Europe, went to all these places. And I was just so fascinated by her story that I thought it'd be super valuable for you guys to hear this as well. So Ari, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, right. This is super weird. I'm interviewing my daughter. Super cool. So Ari, first of all, where were the places I'm curious, what are the places you hit while you're over there?
Okay, I'm just going to list quickly. Germany, Portugal, Scotland, England, but really just London. Spain, but really just Barcelona. Albania, a lot of Albania. Kosovo for a day, would recommend it. And then Turkey all over. And then Italy with you.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm curious, like, what is it that was, first of all, wanted you to do this? Like, what is it that sparked this interest?
I mean, I feel like you know this, but y'all don't know. But I've been talking about this forever. I've wanted to go forever. I love European history. It's like always had a spark for me. And I kind of was just looking around and I said, okay, I'm 24. I love kids. I love the idea of having a farm and a house. And this is kind of the perfect time where I can just pick up and go. It's like, it kind of almost felt like now or never, which I don't really believe is true anymore. I met so many people in all stages of life. But for me, I had like a fire under my belly, and my boss and my family were like, you can totally do this. Like, you got this. Like, let's kick it off. So I planned, and I was just like, okay, let's go. We just did it. I don't know.
And for context, you said your boss and your family, so because you were nannying, correct?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So for context. And so, okay, so you check this out. And so what were your, like, was this excitement? Was it anxiety? Like, was it like, what are some of the emotions that you experienced? Because like, and by the way, did you know you were going to go that long right from the start, or did you find yourself wanting to stay out there longer?
So I definitely thought I was going to come back sooner. I think that the major anxiety I was feeling was like, it's going to be the first time that I spend holidays away from my family, which you don't even think about until you're kind of faced with that. And I was like, I'll just come back for Christmas, or I'll just come back for New Year's, and it'll be October, November, and December, and that's enough. And then I was sitting in my yurt in Scotland. I was staying in a yurt on the farm that I was volunteering on. And I called the airline, and I was like, I would like to change my flight from December to later. And they were like, the latest you can do is September. And I said, okay, let's do April, like somewhere in the middle. It was all so like on the fly. And then that ended up being the perfect timing, budget wise and friend wise and family wise. I'm back for important birthdays, back for the summer. But yeah, I experienced like such a degree of excitement every single day that you can't, like, I've been trying to bottle it and kind of like replicate that now that I'm back home. And I'm sure we'll probably talk about that too. But that was the major anxiety. It was just not seeing you guys. And then every once in a while it was like, how do you use an ATM in Turkey? Or like, what is a public train? Do I need an app for the bus? It was just like little things that like I fully believe that everybody could figure out. It's just you have to figure it out.
So talk to me a little about that though, because like, one of the things we notice in Lifeonaire a lot is like people get stuck in their comfort zone, their routine, and they're very hesitant or fearful to break out of that. And so one of the things I found fascinating about your trip a lot was like, you just did it. And like, dude, I got to tell you, like, I never would have done this when I was your age, and I probably wouldn't even do it now, even if I had no family. And it's not because I wouldn't be interested, it would be because I was like fearful of like figuring it out. Like, we had a couple experiences in Italy, for instance, that we didn't fully know what was going on, and we're trying to find this train, and we missed one train here, and we're like, and you just like navigated it, and you're like, okay, this is not, it's not a big deal. We'll figure it out. Like, how does somebody kind of adopt that kind of, resilience and perspective that like, you know, to get over the hump on some of those things? And I don't know what that was like for you, but I'm curious, do you have any advice for people like that might be fearful of doing something like you did?
Yeah, I think that you have to kind of like change your perspective that the like people say this all the time, but like the journey is the journey. Like the journey is the destination. So like yeah, we missed a train, but we have to think what's on the other side and like what's more important and how can we find a way. We're not going to start arguing with each other. We're not going to like lose our heads about it. Like getting out of your comfort zone, I feel like just making that a practice every day and just being like sure that every day you're going to meet some kind of obstacle. Obviously, it's more extreme out there, but like I'm sure every single day somebody gets an email and they're like, "Oh my gosh." But if you just accept that like getting a frustrating email or something frustrating at your kid's school or even just like traffic, like that's just part of getting to the good part. I feel like if you change your perspective in that way, then nothing feels like the bad part anymore. It all just feels like a step to the best part. I don't know if that makes sense. I
It
think
does, but
that,
like,
yes.
I
Also,
was
for
just
me, getting out of my comfort zone in the first place, I think that it's worth it for me. Like, it's worth it for me to feel scared or to feel out of place because I know that every single stranger I meet is can teach me something or is going to be a joy or could be a new friend. Um, and I just feel like if you just try to live like that every day, then you'll find way more adventure, even just like within your own hometown.
mm. And you didn't have any kind of fears about like languages or language barriers or anything like that? I mean, gosh, you're in countries that are completely foreign to our way of communicating.
Yeah. That was the major thing where I was like, you really got to keep your head, okay? Because okay, guys, what you don't notice is that they're also connected. Like, you got to be a good guesser. I think that's what it is. Put your head in the guessing state, right? Lots of food words sound the same. And then also, like you said about stepping out of your comfort zone, you have to be willing to do the wrong thing. You order the wrong thing, you eat the wrong thing. Like, it's just like you kind of just have to be willing to do that. And then I do really think it's being bold and brave and being comfortable with looking silly. Like you just have to be okay looking kind of silly and not knowing what you're doing. If you need to ask a stranger for help, 9 times out of 10, they want you to have the best time you can have, especially when they hear they're like, you're not, what are you doing here? Especially in these like smaller countries. They're like, this poor thing, we should probably tell her how the train works. Like they're totally willing to help you. And yeah, language barrier is 100% like the most interesting part. But after a while, people were asking me for directions. So after a while, you start looking a little bit more local. And I think that that'll ease your anxiety a little bit if you're thinking about it.
Man, that's because that seems like, at the fundamental level, like I think, you're a stranger in a strange land. And I love that you kind of embrace this, like leaning into it kind of perspective. And also like, hey, you know what? It's okay if you don't know it, you'll figure it out. And even when we were in Italy, like I realized, and by the way, I got it personally. I didn't feel like my Spanish helped me as much as I thought it would. Like
I
Italian,
thought it
like
would help us too.
yeah, yeah, it
No.
did not help as much as I thought it would. But side point, like you kind of just like, and you know what? If someone like doesn't help you, you just ask somebody else. Like there's plenty of people. It did make me realize that like at the end of the day, we're all just people and we're just communicating in a different way, but we're all like connected. And like it was just it was very revealing. What are some of the things that you recognized over your trip about maybe the world and other people and being on the other side of the globe?
Yeah, I think that I think that we're so afraid of rejection in a way. Like we're so nervous to be told, like kind of like what we were talking about. We're so nervous to be told like no or to feel silly. And I feel like that's a very individualistic way of looking at things. And a lot of other cultures and a lot of other countries are so much more community based. And I don't think that we don't have that. But you find that there are people who are willing to open their door, put a seat, like have a seat open for you, give you tea, and shelter you from the rain. And there are people that really, really want to take care of you, especially as a foreigner, because they want to show you, like, especially like in Turkey, for instance, they know that there's like maybe stigma about visiting Turkey from the West. So they want you to feel that this is a warm place. And I also really noticed in Scotland, for instance, like they will mess with you like y'all are old friends. Like they'll tease you and they'll play with you and crack jokes with you. And it's every single place has this unique, obviously this unique culture, but like this unique energy. And there's something inside of you that like that will touch everywhere you go. And you can learn a lot from everywhere that you go and kind of like take a piece and become, I feel, a more well-rounded individual.
Mm. So what did you learn about yourself by being overseas for so long?
Yeah, I think that I did learn that I think that I wanted to look cooler in public spaces than I realized, which is so silly because I'm always the kind of person that's like, whatever, like you'll never see them again. Like just be authentically you because I mean, don't like be crazy, but like be authentically you because you'll probably never see these people again. And it's not worth wasting your time trying to look like any certain kind of way. But when I got over there, I'm lugging this suitcase, just so everybody knows, I think it was 50 something pounds. So I'm just looking like a silly person the whole time. So I think that what I learned about myself was to not really genuinely not worry about what people think because it's such a fleeting, and most people are worried about themselves. They're not really worried about you. I also learned that I am so much more capable than I thought I was. And I think that every time I told somebody, especially somebody who was older, I was like, oh yeah, whatever. Like I'm just like traveling, like just and they're like, by yourself? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, 6 months? I'm like, yeah, like whatever. And I think that every single time I had a conversation like that, I realized, okay, this is actually pretty cool. Like when you're in it, it feels like I told you, it just feels like you have to wake up, you have to figure it out. But I don't know, like I'm stinking proud of myself. And I feel like I can kind of do anything and I want everybody to feel that way because most people don't feel that way. And I feel like you can get it if you push yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So true. And I think, getting those kind of comments from people when you tell them what you're doing, it's kind of like a little, it's almost like a pat on the back, like, wow, like it gives them an opportunity to reflect on their own life and be like, man, maybe there's things I want to do that I've never done or trips I've never taken because of whatever reason. Um, and
Or like
so,
maybe there's something that I'm doing right now that somebody else would feel so impressed by that like it's never even occurred to me, like kind of the inverse. And like maybe I am super capable too.
yeah, totally. Totally. And I love that. So it really wasn't even just about you, but and your experience, but like having these conversations with other people gives them a kind of a little bit of a light as well in their lives. Tell me what you like. And you're someone who connects with people a lot. Tell me about like you've mentioned a couple of times you've met even friends over there. What was that like, and how does that happen?
It's so incredible how organically you can connect to people when there's no, I don't even know if this is the right word, just like the milieu of everyday life. I meet some people. I meet a girl from New York and a guy from Colombia. That night, we talk, we hang out. The next morning, or that night, we were like, we should travel together, which is crazy. You would never say that to somebody that you meet at like a dinner party or a wine and cheese night or something. And we were just like, let's do it. And the next morning, we're all at breakfast. And they've been traveling for way longer. Me being somebody who's like, oh gosh, that was embarrassing. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. And then the next morning they were like looking at Airbnbs. And I think that the way that we connected, especially Jess and Christian, the two friends I'm talking about, we're still friends. The way that we connected was so organic because there wasn't, I feel like it kind of took away almost like those first three friend dates, the small talk didn't really matter. Like what your job is doesn't really matter. Your, like your economic bracket, your day to day, your home life, which all of these things are important. And I know these things about them now. These things are a part of them. But we met, I don't want to sound corny, but we met on the human level, like truly, like bare bones. And we trusted each other so quickly. I'm not advising people to just shack up with random people. Like, trust your gut.
Right.
You have better intuition. If it was two guys, I probably would have been like, we can be friends in different hotels. But when Jess helped, right? But it was just amazing how quickly we were able to talk about real stuff, her childhood, our dating stuff, Christian's like, imposter syndrome at his job. And all of these things came out the next day. And then the memories that we made were like lifelong memories, amazing things that have happened between friends and I that I've had for years. We were able to crack those kind of like barriers because kind of almost like you have nothing to lose and you don't feel like you have to put borders around yourself or like raise walls or protect yourself in any way. And I feel like we can all try to do that all the time to just like be super vulnerable us. And then it's scary because like what if somebody rejects you or what if you get hurt or what if somebody takes advantage of you? But like that's a risk that I feel like we should all just be willing to take because you get what you get out of it. Most people are good, and what you can get out of it is far outweighs what you might lose if somebody is being nefarious.
That's so cool, super powerful. Um, Talk to me a little bit about the tactical and strategic parts of this because there is a financial component to this. There's a little bit of planning that's involved to this, and now I'm not saying we're done with like actually, but hold on. Before we go into that, are there any other things or lessons or ahas or moments that kind of like made an impact on you that we haven't mentioned yet?
I think I think the number one thing is we're all really focused on 5-year plan, 10-year plan. That's awesome. You shouldn't let life just come at you. You shouldn't just be kind of floating through life, right? Then you're not actually taking advantage of every opportunity. But if we all are so obsessed with what we're going to be doing in 5 years, then we're also not really focusing on what's happening right now. And I it's I'm on the horse now, I'm job hunting, and I'm super excited about the next chapter. But during this time traveling, I was so much less worried about what my life looks like within the context of what I'm supposed to be doing. And I feel like you guys talk about this all the time. There is no supposed to. There's only what you want and how you can help others and how you can feel fulfilled. And it's really hard to put that aside when you're a college grad and all your friends are doing the 9 to 5 or like blah blah. And then you meet all these different people who are like, yeah, I'm 30 years old and like I have an Etsy jewelry shop, but I travel full time. And you're like, wait, I didn't know that was an option. That's crazy. Like that's not going to be what I want to do, but that's so cool that you figured out that that's what you could do. We're not really told all of the options, and kind of like the major the most important thing is just like, do you wake up every day and do you love what you're doing? You don't need to do what everybody else is doing. So I feel like I found so many more people just loving what they're doing. And I think that if we treat every interaction as an opportunity to learn about that person instead of just buying coffee or both on our phones while we're on public transport, if we treat every single day as an opportunity, there are billions of people out there. A lot of people are just waking up every day and loving what they're doing. It's not just people that I'm meeting in these hostels. It's not just people that I'm meeting on the street in Spain. It gets people all around us. So you can be inspired all the time. And it just brought me like real peace, I think,
Mm,
realizing that.
that's awesome. How do you feel like this trip has influenced what you plan on doing? Like you mentioned, the next 5 years, next 10 years, like has this made any changes in how you kind of view like work and life and trips and like, do you see yourself kind of maybe pursuing a different path as you were prior to this, or had you already given this? Does this just fit into what you already were planning on doing anyway?
I think that this basically told me you can. I was before I was like, I just need to get a job, any job in my field. I'll take it. I don't care. I just need to check that box. And now I'm like, no, to, I desire a job that allows me the ability to do this. And whether that's like, I want to go to the Grand Canyon, it doesn't have to be, doesn't, you don't have to go to the Balkans to have done something that like feeds your soul. I think there's so much time where I was alone. I was solo traveling and I've never really had that. So that at times it was hard because I always have somebody to kind of bounce ideas off of and friends. And I always have, I think mainly people aren't distractions, but having silence and almost like meditative silence is huge for actually making decisions because you know best what you want, you know? So I had all this time and all of these experiences and putting that together, I'm like, I want more of that. So now how can I structure my job around that? So now I'm like looking into hybrid jobs. I'm looking into moving to a city where one of my friends already lives. I don't need to go live in Europe. I can still experience that change and have a friend nearby and still travel. Like you can have everything that you want. You just have to be patient, I feel like, and work and grind.
Well, one of the things I thought was cool, like, when we were in Italy, we would spend the full day doing stuff. And then and they're 6 hours behind us. And so it was like literally 6 p.m. is only noon over here in Eastern time. And so like if I had to send out an email, I'm like, they got it. Like, and here it is in the evening. I could just, if I let's say we're ever to live overseas, I could work for a couple hours in the evening and everybody else back in the States would still be on a regular time schedule and I could still have
Mm-hmm.
full control over my entire day doing whatever I want, and then even just do a couple hours of work at night, and that could have been feasible if I had chosen to kind of like do that. And so it's just this to your point, there's ways to do it, which I
Yeah,
love.
if you work a 9 to 5, the hours are almost better over there with a 6 hour delay. It's pretty cushy. You can have 2 days in one.
Yeah, it's wild. It's super cool. All right, so let's talk about tactics for a second here. And I just want to ask a couple questions about the feasibility of this and the cost so that people that are travelers that are listening to this, or who maybe that's the first objection that popped up for them, like, oh, I could never afford to go over there for 6 months. Um, any First of all, how much do you think it costs overall, like that for you to be there for 6 months?
6 or 7 grand, six or
Okay.
seven thousand dollars.
Got it. And now where were you staying in hostels most of the time, or what was your living arrangements typically like?
Yeah, so I stayed in hostels a lot, but
And by the way,
really, yeah,
hold on. Do you, in your opinion, are hostels safe? Because I just keep thinking about the movie Hostel,
yeah,
and like,
okay. See, that's a hard question. So research is your friend. Um, I sometimes would plan stay at a hostel on the bus to the country, right? So I'm not saying that you need to like you don't need to research that much. They're all just waiting for you. They're very easy. But you look, I mean, read reviews, right? Because yeah, the movie you're talking about, I'm not allowing myself to watch it, but I've heard it's very scary. And from you. And I would say that no, don't obviously just stay anywhere. You wouldn't stay at any hotel in your hometown. That'd be crazy. So do some research. Hostels are overall pretty safe. If you're a girl, spring for the girl room. It's not going to make your experience any less pleasant. It's a great way to meet people, free Wi-Fi, a lot of digital nomads, people who work and travel at the same time, stay there. But for me, I think the major way that I was able to save money was volunteering. So I can say the resource that I used was Workaway, workaway.com. And it's like $40 a year, so it's super worth it. But basically, there's businesses, hostels, farms, guys building a boat in the Mediterranean if you have carpentry skills, like anything you can think of. I don't have labor skills, But if you have a labor skill, you can get an even cooler job, and they'll house you and feed you. So in Germany, I worked at, this is how I basically didn't spend any money, and I stayed for a month in Germany. I worked at a hostel, and my job was to take people on tours to Oktoberfest. Is everybody going, oh my gosh, that's so cool? Because it was so cool. And I could not believe that that was going to be my job for a month. And it was free. I had to fly to Germany, and that was my only plane ticket to Europe. I got to live in Germany, and I was basically paid with food and lodging to be there. In Scotland, I worked on a farm, very tiny, like polytunnels. And I stayed with this amazing family in a cute little yurt in a village of 150 people. And they fed me fresh venison. And I got to sleep there. And the family was amazing. And that takes research too, obviously. You don't just go anywhere, right? But especially if you're solo traveling as a girl, you don't just go anywhere. But there are a lot of ways to save money. And then once you start making friends, we went and did hot air balloons, and I wouldn't have been able to afford to stay in a cave hotel, which like I don't even in Cappadocia, if anybody knows what that is, but I wouldn't even be able to afford to stay in a cave. It's like $100 a night. But once you split it with a few friends, then you can start seeing how all of this, the pricing goes down and down and down. Grocery shopping. That was a big budgeting tool. Grocery shopping and cooking for myself.
So would you say that like if someone wanted to stay at a hotel and maybe would you double the cost, would you say would or more? So maybe we're looking at $10,000, $12,000, or what's your
Yeah.
best estimate?
So the typical hostel depends on the strength of the currency, what you're saying, right? But the typical hostel is going to be between 14 and 40, and it's usually somewhere in the 20s and 30s. So if you're
Okay.
staying in a hotel, then yeah, definitely it's good, definitely going to be
Okay.
more. Um, but I stayed in a off season, right? So that's another way that you can kind of like plan ahead. I was in the on the Aegean coast in Turkey in a place called Kuşadası, and I was staying in a beachfront hotel for $20, 22, I think, dollars once you do it a night. Unreal, guys, like unreal. Like you look outside, oh my gosh, that's the actually the Aegean Sea. So it's just like if you want to save money, you can. And then once Dad joined me in Italy, I felt like we were like kind of living it up. So we did stay in some hotels based on where I had been staying before. But I don't. It wasn't even like it still wasn't that crazy if we split it between two people.
Yeah. And yeah, so when we got in Italy and I'm like, I have a bunch of points here from IHG or Hilton, I can't remember which chain it was. And so we just stayed for free for several nights at hotels. Um,
And I'm sure you're not the only person. Like if you want to travel for, you only have 2 weeks off, blow through your points. Why not? And then go crazy and go on excursions and buy food. It's just like what's important to you.
yeah.
That's what you spend money on.
Yep. Well, Ari, I'll tell you, it's super cool. I love what you've done. It's so, and like you're gonna have these memories for a lifetime, maybe even these friendships for a lifetime. And I can't wait, to see how this plays out for you. Any last things that you can think of that we haven't discussed or I haven't asked that you might think are valuable, either tactically and the practical side of traveling, or like about stepping out of your comfort zone and the things you could learn about yourself, about the country that we haven't covered yet.
Um, I planned for months before I left. I put aside money before I left. No matter what your situation is, if you can put a couple dollars aside, no matter how long it takes, if this is what you're working towards, that's what you're working towards. And I think that that's something that you have been really good at teaching me, like different envelopes, for different things. There's a certain amount of fun money, and once you reach your fun money, you're planning for fun months down the road. That's going to be way more fun than going to karaoke night. And I also think like truly you can. Like you can. It doesn't matter like if you've never had to experience, if you're super duper comfortable in your bubble, that's awesome, and comfort is really a beautiful thing to have, and not everybody has that. But you can do anything I've done, obviously, because I just went out and I was like you, right? So there's no obstacle that's too large. Once you're over there, you're there. Like, God bless it. How lucky are you to be there at all? And I feel like
Yeah.
we can live like that today and tomorrow here.
Love it. Love it. Hun, well, love you so much. I'm so proud of you. This is so awesome. Thank you for sharing with all the people that are listening to the show. Yeah, thanks for your time. I can't wait to see where the new adventure leads you.
Thanks. I love you.